Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to engage in a rhetorical voyage through the convoluted arena where sports, politics, and financial machinations intertwine like the Gordian knot.
Yeah, you're using Sports League. They have a whole bunch of sports. You saw what happened with golf.
I did not know.
Oh yeah.
Do you know about it, Moon?
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it right now, but they merged with like the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
It's called sports washing. Is what
It is crazy. This is actually one of the funniest stories. If I remember correctly, I might be having it a little bit wrong, but essentially a bunch of golfers were going to sign with a different league. They were no longer be with the PGA Tour, which is like the most prestigious league, and they were going to sign with a Saudi-based league. I think it's called LIV Golf or something.
Yep.
So these individual golfers were going to sign these deals, and then the PGA lost it. Okay, they started pearl clutching. How dare you guys? This is against our principles. These people are wrong. Whatever it is. So there's a huge amount of backlash of it. So the golfers decided to step away and not go through with the deal. Then the PGA, if I remember correctly, the PGA ended up signing with the same people, and I think they created something. Did I get the order right?
The PGA, yeah, now signed with LIV, and they're like, I don't know 100%, but they're like working together, or maybe the LIV bought the PGA. I can't exactly tell you, but yeah, and the people who stayed loyal to the PGA got royally, because the people who went to LIV got huge like contracts and huge buyouts, and all the people who were quote unquote loyal to the PGA just kind of got.
Yeah, someone said it's not official, but I think there's a legal battle going on where I think somebody's trying to break it up for monopoly purposes or something along those lines, or antitrust, something like that. But yeah, essentially the golfers just spending insane amounts of money to bring a bunch of sports league, esports, all these different things over there.
Hey, they're buying like football teams, like soccer. Teams as well and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they've been bringing in the biggest stars over the last 2 years. They got Cristiano Ronaldo, Sadio Mane. All the biggest football stars are now transferring over to the Saudi league.
Messi, but I think Messi wanted an expansion team here. But whatever.
No, he went to Miami, I think.
Yeah, but I think that's just because he wanted like the guaranteed expansion team, so he can have his own team here.
Possible. Yeah. I ended up going to I was there for F1 weekend. I was in the Emirates. I ended up having somebody who worked for the airline like get me like a business flight, so I'm very grateful, and I decided to go check it out. I'd never been. I was really shocked by how many celebrities I ended up seeing on the flight for the F1 weekend, and I knew a lot of these people from the online world, and I kept thinking to myself, okay, actually I want to ask you this, Destiny, do you think there's anything weird about people who have very strong political opinions that don't align with the golf going out there for leisure or for helping promoting big events that happen in the golf?
There's like a really nuanced take that you can give on this that I had somebody give to me once. I think it depends on how you approach it. So, have you ever heard of a guy called Red Eye that used to do esports a long time ago?
No.
I feel like I did.
Yeah, Red Eye. Paul, I think was his name. Maybe. We had a conversation on this, I think, like 10 years ago. I think it had to do with whether or not the Olympics should be in Russia or the Winter Olympics being in Russia or something, over not having gay people there or something. And I think at the time, the argument that I had made was that, like, I feel like if people strongly support these issues, that they should pull out. They shouldn't be involved in these countries so that pressure happens and causes people to change and blah, blah, blah. And his counter argument was, he said that rather than disengaging completely from these types of places, something that's more impactful is to run the events and go there, but while you're there, use that as an opportunity to speak out against the injustices you see. You get more platforming for it, more eyes get on it, people that are in the area now have to contend with it because you're in their country saying something. And he said that that was a more impactful way of changing people's minds in those areas rather than just like disengaging completely. So I would say that like participating in countries that do stuff like that, I don't think it's necessarily bad as long as you're speaking out against it. But if you go there to like simp for it and you pretend that nothing's happening, you don't say anything, then you're just like, you're collecting a paycheck, which is also fine, but just don't pretend like you've got strong values or beliefs on it, and certainly don't say it afterwards. Like clearly you're just like doing what you can for the money. Just be honest about it.
Didn't the Botas sisters do that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of money they're throwing at these chess people, like I'd probably bend over to. Pause.
Yeah.
They're paying for this silence with a lot of money.
Yeah, they're not throwing them 10 grand. Like,
yeah, none of the people are going over there and being like, we don't support this up. They know when they go over there and they're getting paid, they shut the fuck up about any of these social issues and they go through with it.
I mean, I don't. If like we get so much money doing this, like, do you really need the extra money? I don't know.
Hey man, you used to see some of these free checks.
Yeah, I guess, but like I'm trying to think, like if I got paid like
slow-
$10 million, like at this point my life's not changing. Like, am I really gonna? I probably would for 10 million. Actually, never mind. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
You know
But
what?
also,
Listen,
like, let's say before
are you not going to do a
offered
debate with
5 million.
with one of these like Muslim debaters in that country for 10 million? You would do it. Come on, don't lie.
maybe yeah.
And their
I-
whole
and
thing
actually-
is just don't say anything bad about the country, and that's it. Like,
I, would,
Yeah,
I think it
course you
would.
do.
I think it would depend. I don't know. I don't know. If you weren't making as much money though, I could definitely understand people like taking buyouts. If you're like a pro chess player and you get paid like $20,000 a year for your tournaments, I could see them be like, oh, $500,000, fuck it, yeah.
well, I also think the thing is, like, even if you're a streamer, like,
Destiny and Abba, like modern-day Socrates and Diogenes, ponder the burgeoning influence of Saudi Arabia in the Western Hemisphere, a geopolitical ballet that unfolds with all the subtlety of a Shakespearean tragedy. In the amphitheater of golf, Destiny and Abba unravel the saga of the Saudi-based league's dalliance with the PGA Tour. The initial tempest, reminiscent of the political storms in the ancient Roman Senate, saw golfers tempted by the siren call of Saudi riches, only to invoke the wrath of the PGA. Yet, in a Machiavellian twist worthy of the prince himself, the PGA, after casting aspersions, eventually entered the same bedchamber with the Saudis. The legal rumblings of monopoly and antitrust, akin to the oratorical jousts of Cicero, loom on the horizon, threatening to rend the fabric of sports governance. The gravitational pull of Saudi petrodollars extends beyond golf, ensnaring the celestial bodies of football, with Cristiano Ronaldo becoming the Nebuchadnezzar of this financial Babylon. The ethical conundrum, akin to a Greek tragedy, unfurls as Destiny and Abba dissect the implications of athletes and leagues cavorting with regimes whose human rights records resemble the Dark Ages. The juxtaposition of sport and political quagmires, reminiscent of Aesop's fables, paints a tableau of moral ambiguity where the lines between virtue and venality blur. In the labyrinth of ethical considerations, Destiny introduces a nuanced perspective, a glimmer of Aristotelian virtue ethics. The notion that attending such events could serve as a pulpit for dissent, a modern-day agora for socio-political discourse, echoes the words of the ancient orator Isocrates, who declared, "Debates are the contests in the marketplace of ideas." Yet, the critique, akin to the piercing gaze of a Greek philosopher, turns toward those who, like the sirens, remain mute in the face of controversy while lapping up the largesse bestowed upon them. The moral high ground, often more slippery than the slopes of Mount Olympus, becomes treacherous terrain for those who embrace silence in the face of societal maladies. Destiny and Abba, with the sagacity of Confucius, unveil the broader implications of this nexus between sport, finance, and politics. The Faustian bargains struck on the fields of play reverberate beyond the stadia, into the collective conscience of societies grappling with the moral quandaries of complicity and complacency. The Saudi-sponsored sojourns of Western celebrities, a spectacle akin to the courtly masques of Renaissance Europe, raise questions about the complicity of these high-profile individuals in burnishing the image of a nation criticized for its human rights record. Like the Medici patrons of yore, Saudi Arabia employs its considerable wealth to orchestrate cultural diplomacy, enlisting celebrities as unwitting ambassadors in this geopolitical theater. The term whitewashing, often reserved for artistic endeavors, takes on a metaphorical resonance as celebrities, like alchemists of public perception, attempt to paint a palatable facade over Saudi Arabia's less savory aspects. The ethical palette becomes muddled as these stars, with their considerable influence, lend an air of legitimacy to a regime grappling with allegations of human rights abuses, especially against dissidents and journalists. This convoluted dance between celebrity and state, reminiscent of imperial patronage, raises pertinent questions about the motivations behind these paid visits. Is it a genuine endorsement of cultural exchange, or a Faustian bargain where celebrities, enticed by lucrative contracts, find themselves ensnared in a moral quagmire? Destiny and Abba, with the perspicacity of ancient philosophers, scrutinize the motivations lurking beneath the veneer of glitz and glamour. In the grand tapestry of cultural exchange, the ethical implications of these visits are a Gordian knot, entwined with the threads of complicity and moral responsibility. Destiny, channeling the spirit of Socratic inquiry, contemplates whether these celebrities, by becoming willing participants in Saudi Arabia's public relations gambit, inadvertently become apologists for a regime often criticized for suppressing dissent. Abba, with the tenacity of an investigative journalist, raises the question of silence. The silence of these celebrities on issues like women's rights, freedom of expression, and the plight of activists becomes a conspicuous absence in the symphony of their public personas. The moral high ground, like the fabled Tower of Babel, crumbles when these influential figures choose to remain silent on matters of societal significance. In a world where power dynamics extend beyond traditional domains, the intersection of sports and statecraft becomes a fertile ground for scrutiny, reminiscent of the Cold War-era proxy battles fought on various fronts. The PGA, an emblem of American sportsmanship and cultural influence, morphs into a geopolitical pawn in the hands of Saudi interests. Destiny and Abba, invoking the specters of Cold War paranoia, contemplate whether this acquisition is a Trojan horse, a seemingly innocuous gift concealing ulterior motives that could undermine the integrity of American sports and, by extension, national security. The landscape becomes murkier as the financial fingerprints of Saudi Arabia leave an indelible mark on the PGA Tour. Destiny and Abba, like economic detectives, investigate the potential vulnerabilities that arise when a cornerstone of American sports and entertainment falls under the sway of a nation with a geopolitical agenda that may not align with the values traditionally associated with sportsmanship. The notion that sports entities, like the PGA, could become conduits for soft power influence is not a novel one. Destiny and Abba, with the historical acumen of Thucydides, contemplate whether Saudi Arabia's financial investments in the PGA to represent a subtle expansion of their influence into realms beyond the traditional corridors of diplomacy. In conclusion, Destiny and Abba embark on a philosophical odyssey through the increasingly entangled web of sports and political machinations, revealing the complex interplay between morality and mammon. The narrative, enriched with historical and cultural references, mirrors the timeless struggles of human societies navigating the rocky shores of ethical dilemmas.